gentlemen. Welcome to the Fourth Dimension group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Don, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm your chairperson. Let's open the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're glad you're all here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask that all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. Is there anyone present who is at their first meeting or in their first 30 days of sobriety? If so, please introduce yourself. We ask this not to embarrass you, but so that we may get to know you better.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Linda. Anybody else? All right.
We got two more.
Hi, my name is Skylar, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Skylar. Is there anybody here from out of town?
Hi, my name is Sheila. I'm an alcoholic from the Grove Gone Sober group in Pensacola.
Hi, Sheila. Anybody else? All right, Damien will now read the preamble.
Hi, I'm Damien. I'm an alcoholic. This is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
And Eric will now read the steps.
Hello everyone, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Eric. Here are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all people we had harmed, persons we had harmed, and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thanks, Eric.
You can please silence your cell phones at this time. Also, we ask that if you could please refrain from getting up and down during the speakers, but if you must, please do so quietly. If you're going to smoke, we ask that you please be away from any buildings. Please be respectful as we are guests of the church. Also, if you have any announcements in between speakers, please see the group secretary. Group secretary, please raise your hand. Yes, Matt. All right, at this time, I'd like to welcome the first speaker, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for such a warm welcome. And welcome, Skylar, and welcome, Linda. Glad you're here. The newcomer is so integral to the vitality of AA. My sobriety date is January 1st, 1998. I came into the program in 96 from a family intervention. My best friend and my husband at the time and my parents, my family all came, and after Christmas that year said, you know, Tom's going to leave and take the girls. I have two girls. They were young at the time. They're 20 and 22 now. And said that he was going to leave and take the girls and I'd be on my own if I didn't go to treatment. So I went to a 60-day day patient and a 30-day inpatient. And that's after, 60-day inpatient, 30-day day patient. And that was after I had been in detox. And when I went to detox, I was asked to go to an AA meeting before I left. And I tell this all the time because it was just now when I look back on it, it's so funny. But I went to the AA meeting, and it was a bunch of like old farmers with not a lot of teeth and the big blue books, and it was dark. And I was like, okay, this is not where I belong. But I'm here at the meeting that I said I'd go to. And I went home and I said, well, I went to the meeting. I'm good to go. To my husband, he's like, oh, okay. And then the intervention was a while later. This is probably my least favorite kind of 12-step work to do. I have a stomach. I get a little nervous about talking in front of people, even though, you know, if it's one-on-one, I'll talk your ear off. My experience, strength, and hope. When I went to Meningers, I was immersed in 12-step recovery. And for the first 2 years, I went to meetings every day. I got on my knees. I read the book. But I did not hear the part where it said it's a we program, and I let it be a me program, and I wanted to do it by myself. I was the last person to get to the meeting and the first person to leave, and every 6 months I relapsed. And it wasn't until I asked we had moved to California, and I asked this woman who was like an angel to me, and she was a model mother and member of society and just so gentle and beautiful, and I asked her to be my sponsor because I wanted what she had. And you know, I was in California for a couple more months, and she took me through the first 3 steps. I moved right after that and went to Germany, and I got a sponsor when I went there, and she took me all the way through the steps. And she is one of my closest friends today, and she just celebrated 26 years of sobriety a couple days ago. And every year on her anniversary, on that day, she sends me a gift and a card. And, you know, miracles happen here. And they said to me when I first came in, don't leave before the miracle happens. And I thought that it was the biggest curse to be an alcoholic. You know, I was sentenced to these meetings for the rest of my life with these people that weren't like me. And I was so special. And it was just the worst thing. And, you know, today, being an alcoholic is the greatest gift in my life. It's because of good sponsorship and staying in the center of AA and working the steps and living the steps and sponsoring other women that I'm sober today. And it's an honor and it's a gift. And this is the way the program works. When my youngest daughter left to go to college, it had been my girls and me for 7 years, just us. And I was dreading her leaving, and I was so sad. And that first year that she was gone, this beautiful girl that I sponsored who had a new family, she was not married, had no kids. She had a family at that time and a husband, and she invited me over for dinner all the time. And that girl's here tonight. That's Tashanna. And, you know, every day, AA, the steps for me have been about changing the way that I look at things. And it's through working them that I'm able to look at my defects of character and get rid of them so that I can be open to be a channel of my higher power, whom I choose to call God. And, you know, it's progress makes progress. It's every day. That thing about it being a daily reprieve is absolutely so true, because some days I forget that I'm an alcoholic and that I have a higher power, and I think that I'm the higher power. Like, that's after I've spent some time in the morning meditating. I forget, I used to, when I first got sober, have all these little sticky notes in my car: let go and let God, pray, live and let live, to remind myself. And I have to come here to remember where I came from, to hear what happens to people that stop coming here, and to help the newcomer. And, it's really about giving away what was so freely given to me, which is my life and my kids' lives, and the people that I love, because you change the way you live your life is a model for other people to see, and it's changed the relationships that I have with everybody, with my parents, with my brother, and definitely I just want to thank all of you for being here for me, and thanks for asking me to speak.
All right, Danielle will now read the traditions.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm an alcoholic. The 12 traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in all our group conscious. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems to any related facility or less problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
And Brad will now do the chips.
I'm Brad. I'm an alcoholic. All right, we have a chip system here to recognize lengths of sobriety, and if anybody wants to give up the fight, and this is a length of sobriety. It's 1 day. Does anyone have 1 day? That was Brenna, Gina, and Dana, I believe. Sorry if I get your name wrong. All right, we got 2 months. You want to be sober for 2 months? All right, we got a red chip for 90 days. I'm sorry, that's a green chip. This one here is for 6 months. That was Jenny, everyone. All right. I'm going to have to hit the reverse on that. Sorry. This one is 6 months, purple. 9, I'm sorry. Look like it's 6. Anyone being sober 9 months? Did I hear 9 months over here? All right. Yes.
Good job.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah. And here's a red chip. It represents a year more multiple. Mike and Claire. Just give everyone a hand again, and if you have a drink in your higher power.
All right, at this time I want to introduce the second speaker. This is Tashanna from Palm Harbor. Let's welcome her.
Oh my goodness, there are a lot of you. I don't know if I would have said yes if I knew this was going to be, no, I'm just kidding. My name's Tashanna and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 30th, 2004. So what it was like, what happened, and what it was like now. I love to see all the young people. When I got sober, I was convinced that it was nothing but old people, and you know, when someone talked me into going to my first meeting, I said, I lived in Seminole Heights in Tampa at the time, and I said, okay, I'm only going to go if it's young people and it's small. Well, it didn't really work out that way, but soon I knew I was home. I am a native Floridian. I'm from, whoever's from Pensacola, welcome. I'm from Niceville, and yes, it's nice there. And I was born there, and we moved to Indiana when I was 9. And talk about a culture shock. Going from the Bay to cornfields, I thought, oh my God. Not long after that, Children of the Corn came out, which scarred me, I think. But I have a younger brother who's 8 years younger than me, and my parents divorced really young, and we moved to Indiana because my mom couldn't raise 2 kids without any help, and all her family was up there. So when we moved, my dad didn't really like that situation, and so we lost contact. And so for years growing up, I couldn't figure out, you know, why my dad didn't call me, why he wasn't in my life, and I built this fantasy. You know, when I first got sober, and I can remember telling a man, you know, I feel like when I say I'm an alcoholic, I also need to say I'm a compulsive liar, I'm a thief, and he goes, you're an alcoholic. And I was like, okay. But I created this fantasy, and I started doing it at a very young age with so many aspects of my life. I created this fantasy of what I wanted this man to be. So I would tell my friends of how great he was, and, you know, all these things he did for me, which the fact was I wasn't even talking to him. And the thing about it is I believed them after time. And I believed them to my soul to be true. If you would have put me on a lie detector test, I would have passed. Because I started to create all these fantasies to live in my life. My mom is a practicing alcoholic. And so there were so many instances where, you know, this wasn't really my life. Now that this isn't the way it's going to be for me. And when we moved in with my grandmother, which in looking back, it's, you know, she was one of the biggest blessings, and she just turned 90, and I love her to death. But she's a practicing Jehovah's Witness. And that didn't work out for me, because you don't get Christmas presents, you don't do birthdays, and you don't do Halloween. It was like, what is this is not happening. So again, another, you know, something else to go in my bag of this is not my life. And so I had Mom, who was a disaster, who I had to create all these situations and these, So I turned into this, I am going to be everything. And growing up, I was involved in sports and lots of things in my school, and I just always wanted to be somebody else. I wanted to be somebody in a different situation because my graduating class had 90 people in it. So I felt like I had moved to Mayberry. And everyone knew everybody, and they, everybody knew everybody's parents, and, oh, you're so-and-so's kid, everybody knew everything. And I didn't want anybody to know my story. I didn't want them to know that that was my mom. And so years went past, and I tried to go to school. And, during this time, my mom and I didn't get along well. And the funny thing, fast forward today, is I now have a 6-year-old daughter. And when I talk to my mom now, it's like, man, I know in my heart that she did the best she could. I know that. And to hear that when I was new, it was like one more thing that made me want to gag when I was in here. There were so many times where, I got in trouble. I had my first drink when I was 16 years old. Well, I had my first drunk when I was 16. I started sipping on her beer, I don't even know what age, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like how she was, so I was going to have nothing to do with that. Even as a child, I can remember feeling like I've got it under control. My job was to look like I was the 8-year-old who wanted to be 16, and I was never going to be like Mom. So that first drunk, I had just totaled my first car. And we went to a party, and I'll never forget it. It was Aftershock. And I remember eating the crystals out of the bottle and thinking, wow, this is where it's at. I like this. And I got home, and I was sick for days after, and my mom knew, and she never really addressed the situation, but she knew. And I thought, I am never going to do that again. So I found other substances to help me. And, my very first meeting, it's always been very important for me to talk about the pieces of my story. Because in my very first meeting, I just kind of rolled my eyes and tried to figure out everybody's life and didn't really hear much of what was said, except the very last kid. He was 16, and he was 30 days sober from crack. And I heard him. And I don't know why I heard him, but I did. And he was one of the reasons why I kept coming back. So it is imperative for me to say the pieces of my story. I found other substances which kept me from drinking because I really didn't handle it well. And I threw up all the time. And, of course, I didn't want to be a mess, so I couldn't do that. And so I didn't drink much. And I never really got in trouble with the law. I wanted to do better in sports, that kind of thing. And so I went to college, and that's when the fun began. I didn't really go to college. I actually just lived on the campus and paid money. But the funny thing, and it is funny because that's when it was fun. It was fun. I didn't have many consequences. Looking back, I put myself in very scary situations and could have turned into some very scary situations. But I didn't. And all of this time I kept thinking that I wanted to get to know my dad better, and I hated Indiana, so I wanted to move back to Florida. Well, my dad works offshore, so he's gone for 3.5 weeks at a time. So what better place for a 19-year-old to go but a home where the adult is gone all the time? When I moved back to Florida, I got a job in a bar, and it was just like a fish in water. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved working all night and sleeping half the day. And I always would try to take one class because when people asked me what I was doing, I would say I'm going to school. But it really wasn't going to school. I have enough classes under my belt now to have 2 degrees and don't have 2 degrees. But when I moved back to Florida, I found a lot of scary substances that made me hit a lot of bottoms. And I figured out the more I did of one thing, the more I could do of another. And so my life began this, comfortably numb. I began the journey of trying to be comfortably numb. And it was never enough. I was either too high, too low. I was always trying to balance this magical medium that didn't really exist, and I started to have that feeling that we get where everyone else is going home and I wasn't, or everyone else was going to bed and I wasn't. And so I did that for a couple years and didn't really get to know my dad any better, and so I moved to Tampa to go to school. And that was when I couldn't go to class. The same story. Like we do those moves. Everywhere I went, there I was. And I got a job in Ybor, and da-da. It finally came to a head when the man I am married to now, I was with then, and he said, I can't do this anymore, you've got to go. So, sobbing and crying like we do, I admitted that I had a drug problem. And he said the best thing he could have ever said to me, which was, I don't care, you have to go. and I moved out. And that was in May, and I moved to Davis Island, and I checked into treatment in October. So in May, it was like I climbed a mountain, and I dove off the top. I should be dead. I have wonderful memories of roaming Davis Island in flip-flops for hours because I couldn't sit still in my apartment, and seeing the runners, because they run early on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and thinking I was not a part of the human race. It had always been so fun and in the bars, and it had slowly, I would work, and then I was having trouble work. I couldn't get to work. We all know the dance. And I remember seeing the runners and thinking, something is wrong with me, and I am not like everyone else. Something is not right. And the last straw was, it got to be, I thought people were trying to kill me. I couldn't differentiate. I thought somebody was in my room, but there wasn't, and it was no different than any other night. That just happened to be the night that I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I called Dominic, and he said, okay, what do we need to do? Well, I had no idea what I needed to do. But in that short time span, I always had a guy in reserve. So when this one didn't work out, there was someone else right there. And I had a huge problem with the word God when I came in. When people said the word God, I would mentally think, okay, you have nothing I want to hear. Next. I just would mark you off my list, and I wouldn't listen to you because you wanted to talk about God. Today, I know that there is something bigger than me, and that at that time, my higher power had it planned. And this guy that I had on the side, well, guess what? He had a friend who was in AA, and he was 19 years old. And that was the guy that I talked to that night that sent me to St. Pete Beach to the small meeting with all young people. There was the gift. There was one little crack where my higher power was like, here you go. Here it is. You can go this way or you can go this way. And I ended up going to that meeting, and it's so funny how we are. I looked like a deer in the headlights, I'm sure, and I tried to back out, literally back out. And someone said, oh, no, come sit down. And I left there thinking, what was that? They hold hands, and they all, acknowledge each other, and there's weird. But you know what? I needed to celebrate that I was going to try to go into treatment. And so, sounds right. We went out, and my husband will recall the story because he said, you had a personality change that night. And that's exactly what happens to me. When I put drugs and alcohol in my body, you don't know who you're going to get. I don't know who I'm going to get. I tried to jump out of a moving vehicle on 275, and I wanted to be at the bar, and I was so mad that I wasn't. Anger is as part of my story as everything else. When I got sober, I thought I had one emotion. When I went to treatment, they had this picture of all the smiley faces, and I could only circle the one that had the horns and was red. I was incredibly angry, and it was the most powerful emotion I had because growing up, it protected me. I come from a line of people who have no emotion and have no way but to fight. And that's what they did, and that's what I knew. I was a fighter, and I was not about to let this whole alcohol thing keep me down. And so I agreed to go into treatment, and I stayed for 60 days, and I got out. And, Kim talks about finding that angel. Well, Kim was my first sponsor. And I went to a meeting every day in treatment, and I will never forget my first speaker meeting. That's why I love them so much. It was an old guy. Old. And I still have the journals from back then. But what he said, I could relate to. Everything he said, I couldn't relate to some of his story. But I could relate to how he felt hopeless, how he felt like no one understood him, and how no matter what he tried to arrange, he could not drink like other people. And I thought, wow, okay. So I started to get these little pieces. And I got out, and Kim is to this day, one of the nicest, kindest women I'd ever met. And it was weird for me, because I thought she was just fake. And I thought, no one's really nice and sweet. And so she agreed to sponsor me, and she would invite me over to her house, and she has 2 daughters, and I would watch their relationship, and I thought, they're doing this when I come over. They don't really act like this. Who acts like this? They were loving and caring, and I just don't have that experience. And so I would watch them, and I share this all the time, but we're taking a walk, it's at night, and we're taking the 3rd step, and she's like, oh, look, a shooting star. Your higher power is right here. And I'm like, oh my God. There is a star falling. It's science. Yep, that's what they do. And I just thought she was crazy, but at the same time, there was something about her that I wanted. She had peace that I had never seen in my life. She had love. One of the things, I think the biggest thing that we get from AA is unconditional love. And the love I had always received was conditional. It depended on what you did or didn't do, how you acted, how you didn't act. And, but time went by, and I stopped going to meetings because I just didn't need as many. And then I started to hear everybody, and I thought they were saying the same things over and over. And at 10 months, I had to go to the dentist. And, in the beginning, I said how I made up stories. Well, I still made up stories. So I got a toothache, and today I don't know if I really got a toothache. Because I know that I convinced that my tooth hurt so bad that I had to go to the dentist. And when he said, do you need anything for the pain? My response was, you have no idea. And, within a day it was gone. And I called somebody in the program, and she said, you have to go back. And I'm like, I'm not picking up a white chip. I didn't drink. And she's like, you have to go back. And I walked into this women's meeting that I hated. And this woman was crying and blubbering. And she had 6 years of sobriety, and she said, this is my home group, and I need to be honest that I have been abusing something besides alcohol. And she picked up a white chip. And I thought, well, if she can do it after that long of a time, then I can do it. And that was my last white chip. And I would love to say that I have skipped on a cloud through the rest of this time, and that has not been the case. The reality is for me of getting sober was I have gotten to see things little layers at a time. And I'm so grateful that my higher power never went here, because I don't think I would have made it. There have been layers to where I get to see myself for what I really am. I did some 4th steps, because I would do a 4th step and I wouldn't get that. I would do a 5th and I wouldn't get that feeling that Bill talks about in the book. And so I would think, this doesn't work for me. Everyone else is talking about the 4th and 5th, how it's this great and powerful, and they just felt so lifted, and I felt horrible. And so I would switch sponsors after some time. And after a while, someone said, "Do you see what you're doing? You are still the same." And they were right. I was 2 years sober. I was still, let me rewind a little bit. Because I was so convinced that I needed the picket fence for my life, because I thought that I'm going to get sober, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have children, and I'm going to have the image of what I think is right. Because as a young kid and having 6 television channels in Indiana, I would watch Leave It to Beaver and things like that, and that was what I wanted. Because it was so far removed from what I had. When I had that, I was going to be okay. So I got sober in 04, I got married in 05, I had Justine in 06. Like a good alcoholic, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it right now. And, I was still screaming and yelling at my husband. I was still breaking plates. And I have memories where I was very afraid of what I could do to my child. Because if you don't go on in the steps, guess what? You don't change. I didn't change. I stayed just how I was without drinking. And that was a really scary place, because after a while I thought, why am I doing this? I am the same person. I could not wrap my mind around why I couldn't stop doing the things I was doing. Rage was a regular visitor in our house. And, I got to hit a bottom with that. And I didn't have to pick up a drink. But I did get a sponsor who finally said, "I think I can help you, but the point is you have to be willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then there's no point in us doing this." And I would go into Oldsmar and I would share, because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I would go in and I would just kind of dump, And I'm so grateful that no one ever told me to leave. They never said, "You've got to go." They may hug me and say, "God, get a sponsor," or here are some numbers, or call them. And because in my life, I always felt like a pufferfish. I would blow up instantly, and then I had these little tiny fins, and I wouldn't go anywhere. And there I would be, like this fish. And when Beth said, I think I can help you, we started meeting every Saturday, and she took me through that path. And I had also slept with those 4th steps beside my bed every night. And so when we had finally done the 5th, and some people say don't burn it because you need it for 8, which is true, and looking back, but I was so done with all of it that we burn it. And I think that was another layer that my higher power said, let go. So we burn it, and so I got to go on. And I love step 9. Step 9 has a lot of power to me because, 6 and 7, I thought, I don't have to do anything. I had just done 4, I had just done 5, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a paragraph. Whew, good, okay, paragraph, okay, yeah, I can do this. And in reality, I had no idea of what the depth of those 2 steps were, and it's taken me a long time to grasp that a higher power can help me with my defects. So here's 6 and 7, oh yeah, okay, make a list, yeah, I got that. Well, my parents are on 9, and my dad works offshore, and so he's never home. And I put it off because I didn't want to do it. And she finally called me one night and said, "Just come over here and make the phone call. It's 9:30 at night. It's after me." And I'm like, "You want me to come over right now?" Okay, so I drive over there. We call. I have the script. She's sitting beside me, and he picks up the phone. I hadn't talked to him since I moved to Tampa, so it had been years. I had done a lot of damage when I was there. That whole daughter, I'm going to move home and get to know my dad. I took advantage of him. I ignored him. I thought I was getting him back for all the years he had ignored me. And when he said hello, it was like, oh my God, he picked up the phone. she's like, well, say hello. And so there was the script, and there she was, and she helped me through that amends. And, you know, my dad will be down to visit in a couple weeks. And I can remember the exact moment when, I have 2 children now, when my dad was sitting on the floor playing with my kids. And I had that moment that I believe my higher power gives me that says, you could have missed all of this by 1 drink. You could have missed it all. Where I got sober in Clearwater, there was a woman that had fallen off a 2nd-story balcony at a hotel. It fell on her head. They put her brain back in her head. And she had some stuff from it, but she was sober. And she used to say every single time she shared, and I could have missed it. And I think of her in so many times in my life because I could have missed that moment. Because I was angry and I was bitter because of the life I had been given. Because I had a dad that didn't want me. And really, he just didn't know what to do, you know. I got to make amends to my mother. You know, my mom doesn't drink in my house. Last year, my mom came down and had my kids without me in my being there for 4 days. You know, and I got to go through and make amends in ways that, and I'm not finished with my amends. There are people that I have no way to contact. There are financial amends that I'm still making. I can't very well walk into a bar and say, hey, I stole from you for years, and I've gotten the opportunity to do it in very interesting ways that my sponsor has suggested. I think one of the biggest gifts of sobriety has been to sponsor people. I don't think I'm a very good sponsor. But I love them all the same. You know, I love them because they loved me. You know, every person that I have had has loved me. They've never said, you are an idiot, which I'm sure at times they've probably laid the phone down. And the sponsorship thing has been, it just hasn't been the easiest thing, you know, and sometimes I think, well, I'm just supposed to do service in different ways. My home group is at the end of the rainbow on Saturday mornings, and I used to drive over because my husband had a crazy schedule and I needed a babysitter. So there were meetings with babysitting. And I can remember I had just had my son, and my life was a mess. See, my Leave It to Beaver situation had worked out thus far. And then a lot of things happened with the market, and financially we started to lose things. And so that picture that I had, and because really I think in looking back up to that point, I had a relationship with my higher power where it said, if I do good, you need to do good for me. Because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now, so I want that in return. And we started to lose things. And financial insecurity is one of my, when I get in fear, it is one of my defects that comes to head. And we lost some rental properties. We lost our home. We lost one of our vehicles. And I was so angry because that was not the way it was supposed to go down. And it's funny now, and looking back, I can laugh because I had put so much importance on those things. So my husband takes, I had humiliating experiences with it that I appreciate today. My husband drives the car back to the bank and says, here are the keys, and calls me later and says, our garage door opener, and it's in the car. You need to go get it. Yeah. So the kids and I go in the bank, and, I'm done with him. I'm done with all of it. And I got to keep letting go and keep getting out of the way of my ego, because my ego says, oh, you're so different, just like in here, just like in the beginning. Oh, you're different. You're different than all of them. No, you don't have the same issues. You're different. And that's what happened then. And I got to be humbled in ways that I never wanted to be. That was not a part of my plan. But on the hindsight of it, it was the best thing, one of the best things in my life that could have ever happened to me. I got to reach out my hand and say, I don't know what to do with this. And so we go to court for bankruptcy. And I'm so nervous and scared that I'm ready to throw up. And we're in Hillsborough County, and they have a ton of rooms. And I'm sitting in this room with my husband, and, I keep thinking, God has this. I cannot think that there is not something good that's going to come out of this. God has it. There's maybe 15 people in this room. The door opens, an attorney walks in, and it's a man I know from the rooms. And I just thought, that's all I needed. And at that moment, I knew it's okay. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. I don't like the way it feels, which is really all of this what it boils down to. Using alcohol and drugs, it numbed every feeling I ever had. So then we take my coping mechanism away, and I had no idea how to deal with life. I am so grateful that someone suggested, you probably need to go talk to somebody. Because I didn't know how to deal with all this stuff. I thought that I was just broken. I was this broken person that was never going to be okay. And, there's been a lot of things in sobriety that I have not liked the feeling of. My son, when he was born, he was colicky, and I was a disaster. And I used to walk into Oldsmar to the 9 o'clock morning meeting, and I used to hand them the baby, and I used to sit and just cry and, not have sleep. And they loved me. And they would say, oh, keep coming. Oh, he's fine. And, these were some of the old guys. And, one of them was upset when Bly started walking because he didn't want to be held anymore. I would have missed it. I would have missed all of that. And I'm actually newly pregnant now with our third. And, it's so funny. I don't know if you want to... I thought before I got up here, because I was so nervous, that, wow, I've been so sick lately, I don't know if you want to sit in the front. But I never would have gotten any of this if I hadn't have done any of the work. And I can remember people, all the guys with the specific names, like Angry Bob. There was Angry Bob. And Angry Bob used to say, I love the angry ones because then they have a chance. And I think, I want to claw your eyes out. What do you mean you love the angry ones? In my sobriety, I can remember in Carrollwood, there were always little cracks in the door. And one of the cracks was when I never would share. And it was a small step meeting. And they said, why don't you share? So I told them, I think this is a cult. And it's you guys are crazy and, all of these things. And they laughed, and they asked me to go to Perkins with them afterwards. And, I started doing that. And it's only when I've been willing, because, I've tried. Lately, I've had some girls in my life that aren't willing. And they want to do it their way. And I know what it's like to do it my way. It's miserable. And it may not be miserable at first, but boy, does it get miserable. And they don't want to do what's suggested. And I was told once that the whole program can be summed up in 2 words: let go. And I think that's the most powerful thing, because it's when I let go that I can allow a higher power, something bigger than me, to get in. For years, my higher power was the group. And then I figured out it was the beach. And then I figured out that it was the waves. And then sometimes it was a woman, and sometimes it was a man. So if you're new and you're struggling with the God or the higher power thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's not you. That's what they would tell me over and over. As long as it's not you, Tashanna, you're okay. When I was new, I used to say my name really fast so nobody would have any idea of what I would say. I'd be like, and they just... Because I didn't want anyone to know me. I wanted to, like Kim said, I wanted to run as soon as I got here. And I have never been a part of something where I felt so a part of. This is it for me. I wanted to be here because God knows my kids may need it. I am so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're struggling, hold on, because there's always a hand to grab. Thanks.
Thanks, Tashanna. We passed the basket in accordance with the 7th tradition, which states that we are fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. If you'd like to become a member of this group, please see me or any other group member after the meeting. Would group members please raise your hands? All right. If anyone is able to become a sponsor, please raise your hand. Thanks. All right. Matt C. has announcements.
Good evening, I'm Matthew, I'm an alcoholic. Upcoming speakers, I'll have more next week. But for right now, on October 19th, we have Polly P. from Jacksonville coming to join us. Woo! It's good talk. Want to welcome all the new people. If you need a home, please see me after the meeting and we'll get you signed up and come out to Morty's with us, have some pie. By the way, after the meeting tonight, we're going to Morty's for some pizza, so please join us. It's right over there on Massachusetts. If you need directions, ask me or anybody else who knows where it is. Literature and speaker CDs are available for donation on your terms, or you can visit our website and download them all for free. Home group members speaking. Tonight, Wesley will be speaking at the KISS group, which has started now, or will be starting very soon. But he's going to be speaking on the second half, so if you'd like to go to another meeting, he will be speaking there. Treatment facility meeting is the second Saturday of every month at the A Club at noon. Show up and get involved. There is a women's meeting every Monday night at the A Club at 6:30. They constantly request it, and I'm going to keep saying it. So every Monday night, 6:30, they need women with time to show up, please. Gratitude dinner is November 17th at St. Michael's Catholic Church off State Road 52. The speaker is going to be Dave P. from Jacksonville. Tickets are going to be $10. Groups are asked to donate a basket for the raffle. And just as a side note, this event in particular helps fund the district, so please show up. We have ticket waivers in the back there. For more information, you can see hands raised. Got a couple here. You can talk to our chair, which is Travis. He's around here somewhere. There's a new Big Book study every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 o'clock at 4703 Marine Parkway, Clubhouse number 3. They do the first 164, and it's going to be very good. So please show up. All right, thank you.
And now Brooke will read the 10-step promises.
I'm Brooke and I'm an alcoholic. These are the 10-step promises. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.
All right, and Ed will close with the 12th tradition.
I'm Ed and I'm an alcoholic. All right, here's the 12th tradition long form. And finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personalities, that we are actually to practice a genuine humility This to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. Would you guys please help me close the meeting with the Lord's Prayer?
Yeah, we do.
Out of the way. I'll go out the back there. Okay. How's that? Okay. 6 months. Look at me.
Tashanna, you bring us out?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.